Hey, welcome everybody back to Knights of the Storm. Today is the 31st of January, 2026. And boy, oh boy, have we had a massive news cycle. I am so mentally fatigued, as are my colleagues here. We're talking ice, baby, whether it be the weather or the protests. Mr. Don Lemon was arrested. Okay, that's a big distraction. He's trying to be relevant. Epstein files are still out there distracting us. Possibly going to war with Iran. Gold and silver doing some crazy stuff, which go check out Tiger if you want to know what's going on with the financials. I've got my personal things that I might talk about, my feelings on the silver market. And then when I wanted to talk about, we're not going to talk about none of that stuff today, right? We're going to chill out. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff that you're not paying attention to, maybe talk some feel good stuff. We do these potluck things about every month or so, month or two, to kind of reach back and touch on stuff that you're being distracted from. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. It's going to be a loosey-goosey show. We're just going to talk about some different stuff. And today, as always, I have with me, we'll start with Miss Karen Carpenter. She's a lovely lady of liberty and the lioness of the tigress, or whatever you call it, of the Tiger's Den. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's really nice to be here with you, Jason and Ashley. And yes, it's been a crazy week.
Yes.
It'd be nice to just have some fun and relax a little bit. Nice to see everybody in chat today.
Yeah, people have been asking about your microphone, Karen. They're kind of
microphone has arrived. I never got the notice that it was shipped, but it did arrive. And so I did try. I plugged it in, so it does work, but I haven't tested anything with it yet. So that is definitely in the works. And just real quickly, I want to plug Tiger Tales tonight on Angry Tiger's Den at 8:30 Eastern. And I want to make a disclaimer that in the name of truth, last week I misspoke. I said that Sprouts had been bought by Kroger's, but they have not. So I want to make that clear. They were not acquired by Kroger. There was some confusion on the internet and speculation, and I must have read speculation that may happen, or just something that was incorrect, or I just didn't take the time to read it carefully. But there are definitely changes happening at Sprouts, which are not in the best interest of good quality food and the public. So I'll end it there and turn it back to you, Jason.
Yeah, and I did that, put that in the show notes after the fact, Karen. If we get it wrong, we're going to fix it. You know, it's when you report and everything is right now, and you're trying to get the information out. We tend to get it right most of the time, but if we get it wrong, we're going to say, hey, you know, there was a little confusion here. But yeah, no biggie on that one. I had thought as well the same thing, Karen. So
it really bothers me to be wrong like that. And then the wrong words come out of our mouths when we're trying to speak on the fly. You think about, oh, I said predecessor instead of
precursor or something. Yeah,
precursor, predecessor. I flipped those words. So with Courtney, and it really bothers me, being the daughter of an English teacher. We were always encouraged to be right, to be correct about things. So
yeah, well, we always try to do the best we can, and we make corrections when we have to. And then we have the lady who keeps us sane in an insane world, and it's just growing more insane. Miss Ashley, think, change, repeat. What's going on, Ash?
Hello there. Yes, that is becoming an increasingly difficult task to do as we try to hold on to what sanity we have left in this crazy world. But it's good to be here with everybody. Happy Saturday. We are hunkered down here in North Carolina with our mini blizzard, and it's been going strong since I woke up this morning. And so I've just got my blinds open so I can watch the snow, keep an eye on things. And I also wanted to say that after this, I'm going to be on Wheezy Show tonight, and we're going to be talking about several things. But one of the kind of the principal things is going to be the book Ritual Abuse in the 21st Century by Randy Noblitt. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that and some of the there's a lot to discuss in the realms of ritual abuse. What is it? So that's going to be coming up today at 5 Eastern as well.
Can I say I believe I'm going to be on Ricky's show, Anything is Possible, with James Salcedo, also Salcedo Paranormal, tomorrow evening on Ricky's channel. Anything is possible. That's the plan at this point.
Yeah, shout out to James and Ricky. Both are in the chat right now. So good to see you. We'll do shout outs to chat here in a little while. But let's get through some announcements here.
If I can I finish really quick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
So I just wanted to say that I'm going to be on that show. That's what we're talking about tonight. So that is on Wheezy's What is Truth podcast. Somebody was asking in the chat. So if you just search under Rumble, What is Truth podcast, it'll come up, and that's at 5 p.m. Eastern tonight. And otherwise, I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Sorry, Ashley. I thought you were done.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry, Ash. But let's get through some announcements here. So what is truth, Ricky, all that stuff. I'm actually going to update the website this weekend since I have some time off. My wife's out of town with the grandson, so I got a little bit of relax time to unwind from this crazy news cycle and the babysitting and cabin fever, because we have a little mini blizzard here as well. So it's been rough. So I will be adding to the website. I'm going to add a few people. Red Dawn Readiness, if you all remember, we had him on recently. He kind of took a hiatus, took a holiday break, but he's back in full force. We're going to get him back on, and we're going to start doing gun reviews. And I'm going to do that as a separate, not on Nights of the Storm, as a Foxhole thing, but we will host it on Nights of the Storm as well. So we're going to do gun reviews, talk preparedness, and I think we will get him back on nights specifically for preparedness. And he more leans towards the medical. So that we're going to talk about medical preparedness, which is something people don't look at. They look at guns, ammo, gold, silver, storable food, blah, 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 bug out bags. Where do you go? Do I go hide in a cave? But the medical thing is really important. I know Tiger talks about it a lot. He talks about be the Band-Aid guy, be the gauze guy. So Red Dawn is really in that same kind of mindset, and he has in his family medical professionals. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Anyway, what else we got? You already mentioned Tiger. I was going to talk about Tiger. He does do like about 15-20 minute mix, and then he takes requests. So join us for that. It's a lot of fun.
The last 2 weeks were 2 hours. He went 2 hours, which is quite a long time.
Oh, it's great. I mean, he's got limitations as far as what he can use, but he's got a lot of stuff. So throw it out there. A lot of good 70s and 80s stuff he can, and he remixes it. And it's pretty badass, honestly.
Geesebusters and I have our requests ready. We've been looking through the week and saving them. So please join us.
We got to do another Name That Tune here real soon. Then I wanted to plug Doc Rock. He was on with us a couple weeks ago. Doc, feel free. I know you're in the chat right now on Rumble. Feel free to plug how people can get a hold of you if they wanted to come do the movie watch alongs, which there'll be one tonight, and he does them on Mondays as well. Those are always great. There's always a great discussion afterwards. So check it out. Check out Doc. And then the last thing that I have is we have a friend in the community. I don't know if you want to talk about it, Karen. This is kind of a closer friend to you than it is to the rest of us.
Sure. Don Jeffries posted that he lost his sister several days ago, and he has another family member who's really struggling. So Don could really use your good thoughts and prayers, and his family too. Definitely praying for Don and continuing to do so, keeping you in our thoughts and prayers, Don. Thank you so much for everything you do for us, and we love you.
Yeah, Don's got some great books out there as well. If you want to get schooled up on Nights of the Storm website, go to the read tab. We have all of Don's books listed. But I guess that's going to jump us into the verse of the week. And we've used this one before. Let me toss up the sound effect. All right, we've used this one before, and I brought this back out because of the gold and silver stuff that's going on and the prepping stuff. This comes from Matthew 6, 31 through 33, but I'm going to throw in 34. I just used this graphic. I recycled it because we used it before. we're worried about like being prepared for whatever the heck is coming down. And this whole chapter talks about worry, right? Don't worry, don't worry, don't fret. So I'll go ahead and read it. It's Matthew 6:31 through it will be 34. This is from the King James Version. It says, therefore, take no thought saying, what shall we eat or what shall we drink? Wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. And I would say that that's what most people seek in the world, is worried about tomorrow, right? For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And let me throw that last verse in there. I got it on a separate tab here. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. And I think that's where we're at right now. Everyone's wrapped up in this worry cycle, money, rent, food, power bills, all this other stuff. And yeah, that's something we have to worry about because we have to care for our families. But at the same time, I think that if we have faith, those things will work themselves out. I mean, we have to work on it as well. We can't just sit back and say, oh, I'm going to go live on the streets and God's going to manna from heaven will, come on the ground every morning and that's what I'm going to eat. I don't think that's the way to do it. But I think that over worrying it's like a cancer. It rots you from the inside. And I guess what I'm trying to say is we should have a little faith in these trying times and don't lose the faith. Any thoughts on that? I guess we'll go to Karen first with it.
Well, we talk about this all the time, but all we have is today. All we have is the present. We have great memories and we plan for the future, but it's so important, especially now. And I think that this is exaggerated because we're into the news cycle so much. And this was talked about on America Unplugged today, the nervous system overload. And I wrote a comment, nervous system overload, and Dawn and Billy talked about it for a little while. I mean, not Dawn, Tony and Billy, that and it's deliberate. The nervous system overload, the input. We're not made to have so much input, particularly bad news. And so much speculation about what's going to happen, doom and gloom, what ifing. I call it what ifing. What if this? What if? Well, look around yourself, and what is your reality actually around you? And try to remedy if there are some issues. Try to remedy them, but count your blessings. Take the time to breathe, relax, center yourself, and if you have faith in God, read some scripture or whatever it is that you do that reminds you that the present is all we have, and that we need to live more in the present and not speculate so much. So that's the way that I look at it.
Excellent. And don't live in the past as well.
You cannot change the past.
Right.
You have to forgive yourself.
Ashley, your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. And I know that it is referenced, and I don't claim to be a biblical scholar or a theologian, but I know that it talks about not worrying a lot in the Bible. And I do think that is very difficult in today's day and time not to do that, as already this conversation has addressed that sort of our attention has been captured in a lot of different ways through our phones, social media, and of course, mainstream news and the alternative news, newspapers, to a lesser degree, that we are constantly bombarded and exposed with not only this information coming from, quote, official sources, but also you have so many other content creators or people on X that are breaking news constantly. And yes, we were not meant to be exposed to that, first of all. Second of all, I think that, and we've talked about this before, but cultivating awareness that this is part of the attack on us, I think can be helpful for us to recognize that, look, this is happening, but I'm aware of it now, and I'm making a conscious decision to focus on what I can focus on, what I can affect, and my life that is right in front of me. And of course, our day-to-day life is never going to be perfect. We're always going to have challenges, but we can work on cultivating the blessings and the good things that are in our life that we still have while we still can. And there is, if you subscribe to the Stoicism philosophy, that basically, because Marcus Aurelius was a famous Stoic, but there was also a slave that was a Stoic. And then they talk about being able to find quality of life and deal with what is presented in front of us. And I think that you can do that in almost all circumstances. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this, but I'm saying that I'm trying to get better and to focus on what is good in my life and to recognize that this is a fallen world and these are the fruits of the fallen world that we are dealing with, and we're trying to manage and find the balance there. So I think that cultivating that awareness is key, and then we can focus on the actual change that we can affect in our life, which is significant. We can start with ourselves, and then we can also start on working on our relationships. We can start with forgiveness. We can start with focusing on the good things of humanity. And we've talked about this here as well, but in situations of extreme crisis, it is your neighbors that are helping you. It is strangers that is helping you. It is strangers that don't care about your political affiliations or if you voted this way or that way. They care about you because you're a human and you're suffering. And there is a great deal of that out there. And it is to be found that people care about others and are trying to do, the humane thing and help people when they need help. And you can see 1,000 examples of that, online in your day-to-day life when somebody pulls over and helps somebody on the side of the road, or maybe somebody can't carry all their groceries from the grocery store and you offer to help, like just small things. It's just a kind gesture of being human. And we're not asking if where you're at politically. So I think that we can really make a big difference in our own life and in our relationships when we are working to cultivate gratitude, and when we recognize that this is a psychological war on us, and that we're not helpless, that we have the ability to affect change in our own life and our personal relationships by focusing on what's good and trying to let go of some of what's bad. Again, I'm not saying that's easy or that I'm perfect at that. I'm not. I'm just saying that I'm working on it.
Well said. I wanted to say, Big Ron in the chat said, helping somebody else gets our mind off of our problems too. And I always find that. I find that whenever I go out into the public or deal with people, the best feeling is to help somebody, to make somebody smile, to listen to somebody who wants to talk. I was in the store the other day, grocery outlet, in the cat food aisle, and a woman was telling me about her cat was getting old and he's finicky. So how she feeds him, she puts the food on his nose so he can smell it. And she ended up telling me the story of her cat's euthanasia, crying in the aisle of the grocery store to me because I was listening. And I gave her a hug. And I can tell you, there's a very good chance that made her day, and it may have made more than that for her. And the ripples that we create just by listening to somebody, by caring about them, by truly hearing what they have to say, by smiling, giving them a hug. I don't know her. I wouldn't recognize her if I saw her again, probably. But those are the things that make a difference in the world, and that makes you feel good inside yourself too. Just so take the time to. I have no idea who she voted for. I don't know if she had any shots. If she shot, I didn't even think, is this woman going to shut on me? Give me a break.
I gotta throw one.
Yeah,
Y'all got my.
go ahead. I just wanted to throw that in, that helping somebody, and that was an example that happened to me last week. I haven't really thought about it much, but I think that's a good example of how we can make a difference in each other's lives just by being ourselves and being human and opening up our hearts to people.
And y'all got me thinking, so I got to throw this last thought in here on the verse where, the verse talks about you not worrying personally and you being taken care of, et cetera, et cetera. But being a career military guy, there's a leadership aspect to it as well. If your ducks are in a row and you're calm and you carry on, that influences those who look up to you, and natural leaders are born. So let's just take an example of if your household's a mess and nobody's really leading, the children grow up really bad because they don't have that rock. You know, our rock is Jesus, right? If you're a Christian, your rock is Jesus, but you have to be the rock for your family and your friends around you. I mean, I've seen people that in the military that didn't think they were leadership material, but they were calm. They knew what they were doing. They were calm. They didn't freak out. And in times of chaos, people look to you because you're the one, not like Lord of the Flies freaking out. You know, you're the one that's getting stuff done and saying, hey, this is what needs to happen next. And we need to go over here and do this. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, this guy's getting recommended for promotion to sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, etc. Natural leaders are born. We have to be that way, not just for ourselves, but for those around us that we're responsible for. And that, you know, hearing both of you all talk, that just brought that out of my head, thinking, man, I've seen this in the military, you know, and that's how wars are won. That's how battles are won. That's how families become strong. So think about that. It's not just about you. It's about those around you. And you alluded to that, Karen. You know, even strangers look to you. What's going on with that guy? You know, what's going on with that woman? Let me go talk to that person. So
well, we just said hello and she started on, talking. So, but yeah, I'm the family crisis worker. I'm the one who, let's get Karen. She's good in a crisis. I'm the leader and people come to me sometimes when I'm not really in the mood to be the leader or solve somebody's problems, but I always seem to be able to, I do my best. What can I, that's all I can do, but I am the one who is always there when someone's dying. I stay with them when other people are afraid. I'm the family hospice worker and crisis worker. And yeah, it just, some of us are just born that way, but it truly is important that we look out for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah. Well, I believe you're a leader, Karen. Some leaders are built and some are born. You were probably born that way. But anyway, let's get into our topics. Today is a kickback day, get away from the mainstream news cycle and into some other stuff that maybe you weren't paying attention to. I don't know which one you all want to go first with your topics. I can go first, or you guys can.
Well, I I have a little something, a video that I wanted to share that is kind of applicable, but I can show that at any point. So it just depends, but it's kind of talking about the division and the kind of online toxicity a little bit.
Let's do that. This is a good time to do it because we're talking about being strong and yeah.
Okay, cool. So just to let you know, this is it's over a 16-minute video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I was thinking if I can get like 4 or 5 minutes in, I think she makes a lot of really good points. And this is an account that I really like. And I think that she is doing a lot of good work. She's not a doctor or a therapist certified, but she is someone who comes from a background of what is referred to as CPTSD or complex PTSD. So growing up in a household where there's abuse and or neglect present. In her case, she came from a very alcoholic and abusive household. So she has been talking about a lot of like what Karen was talking about is having a dysregulated nervous system. This is something that is actively being cultivated with all of us. And Don Jeffries writes about this as well. We have, the loneliness epidemic. We have the families that are full of dysfunction. And this is cultivated in today's day and time. And I'm not saying that it's all the internet's fault, because I know of some families historically that before there was the internet or cell phones or television or anything else, there was poverty, there was alcoholism, there was dysfunction, there was abuse. Okay. So
this is perfect. This is perfect. I hate to interject, but this is so perfect what we were just talking about. And the Bible talks about the sins of the father and going generationally. And I've seen this dysfunctional family thing go generationally, but becoming that leader and breaking that cycle is something you can do. And yeah. So I just want to throw that in there.
For sure. The generational component to poverty to substance abuse. I mean, these things are absolutely real. And I do want to emphasize that this was taking place well before the current environment that we're in. However, I 100% believe that, we've talked about this, that the war on drugs is the war on us. And that is disrupting communities, that is filling up prisons, that is causing family dysfunction. So all of that exists in today's day and time and has been made worse, but this has been here for time immemorial. So, but anyway, what she does is she has been doing is coming to some conclusions on how we can sort of discharge this negative energy. So she has like some free offerings. She has a program in Facebook groups and whatever. And I'm not here to sell any of that. I just wanted to let people know a little bit about where she's coming from. And I have been very surprised in that I have watched her and she never appears. She lives in like Berkeley and she never appears to me really. She may be left leaning, but it doesn't really come out that way. It comes out that she has a recognition and an understanding that we are in a highly manipulated environment and really that both sides stink. So not that I would care if she was, because I think the other information she's bringing is really valuable. But I think it speaks to the fact that she's coming from a reasoned place and that she is doing this based on her work with a lot of other people who also had complex PTSD. And there's a huge fallout for that, which is nervous system dysregulation, which is the body keeps the score, holding on to this trauma. And then it makes it very difficult to continue to function in a healthy, happy, well-adjusted way in your life as an adult and to have these healthy relationships that we really desire. And that can come out in a lot of different ways, whether that is like, always choosing a partner that is actually horrible for you, but because of these patterns and dysregulations, you're more drawn to people that have some sort of matching dysfunction. But anyway, in this case, she also, I think, has a lot of humanity in her, and she cares about people online, and she cares about these online bullying and kind of the division that is being sown. And this is something we've talked quite a bit about, the division that's being cultivated. This is a choose your own adventure reality. Whatever your side, whoever your politicians are, whatever your issues are, get mad. Fight about it online, argue about it. I saw this video. This definitely happened. I saw the same video. This is what definitely happened. It is literally choose your own adventure. And I do think the actual truth is important, but, and I think we care about that here, of course, but a lot of people don't, because of all of these issues, they don't care. And they don't even have a moment to take a breath and even think about that. Like, am I being manipulated? And, this is something they talked about in America Unplugged. How are we being manipulated? And we talk about it here a lot, in that we know that the algorithm and other institutions have really set the stage for people to be arguing about everything 24/7. And we're being manipulated, or at least attempted to be. And that's one of my things, is to try to at least recognize that, if not avoid it.
Well, the breaking up of the nuclear family was by design in the federalizing of the school system. And that was to get rid of that rock, as I talked about, the rock, the calm, and carry on. It's chaos now. So that makes it much more easily for us to be manipulated because kids are looking elsewhere for guidance. But I wouldn't want to throw that in there. But yeah, if you got a video, throw it up and I'll put it on screen, or you can do that. Ashley, you have.
Yeah, I wanted to hear what Karen said first.
Yeah, well, I've been a part of Franco's Angry Tiger's Addiction series, and we're going to have another episode on February 11th. We've been on hiatus for quite a long time, and Chris will be joining us. And this is one of the things that we talk about, growing up in a dysfunctional family. And I put a tremendous amount of work into studying about dysfunctional families and the roles and healing and forgiving and being aware of ourselves, going back and nurturing that child in ourselves that was neglected or abused or just didn't get certain types of attention, whatever the case may be. And we truly can make a difference in our own lives. I know that there were several things that I did in my own family very to heal my family as a young person in college. my family, we had unconditional love, but there was no saying I love you or hugging. And so I set about in my early adulthood to make sure that I would change that pattern in the family. And it was very difficult for me because that was not okay to do. And there was unconditional love. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but I did just make myself hug my parents and tell them that I love them. And it took a while, but after a few months, it became the norm in my family. And I decided if I have a child, I'm going to be telling her I love her all the time. She's going to know that. She's going to not be afraid to hug anybody and who's safe to hug. So that pattern changed in my family. There was also some abuse that went on. I'm not going to say who did what to whom, but I helped those two people forgive each other, make amends, and heal. And this was 40 years ago. And so my family has been able to move forward and heal a lot of old patterns. And I always realized, even as a young person, that my parents did the best they could under the circumstances that were given to them, the trauma that they went through, and they went through trauma. So I always understood that. I never blamed them. I knew they were doing the best they could. I loved them unconditionally. They loved me unconditionally. And we always had that awareness and we moved forward. So it's really important to understand that the adults that you see and deal with are carrying their own baggage, their own trauma. They may or may not have taken the time or had the opportunity to look at that, to heal it, to forgive others, to forgive themselves. And we're absolutely being manipulated. There's a great series called John Bradshaw on the Family that I watched years ago that talks a lot about how to heal and move forward and forgive yourself, forgive others, and make more healthy patterns. There's somebody else named Leo Biscaglia, who is just a total ray of sunshine and just completely totally inspiring to go back and listen to his talks. So there's a lot that's been going on for quite a long time. And as far as Berkeley goes, Victor David Hanson went to UC Berkeley and Stanford, or maybe he didn't go to Berkeley. He went to UC Santa Cruz and Stanford. But those are both, UC Santa Cruz especially is very liberal, but he is a conservative pundit who's from my area. And so and I, of course, am from that area too. So just because you live there doesn't mean you're wacky. Anyway, go right ahead, Ashley. This is a great topic.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I do like the, a lot of what you said, but especially understanding the generational trauma aspect to what we see today. So one of the things is that we can have sympathy and empathy for what people in our life that are very important to us or that are very foundational to who we are today, what they went through, and then we can grieve or acknowledge what wasn't great, work on what we can work on with people, and we can work on ourselves. And this is also how we can address boundaries in our life and have boundaries for situations while we still love that person. And sometimes maybe we need to be a little further away, and sometimes we can be closer. And then that's going to be for us to decide. But we do have a lot of say in how we run our lives and the people that we have relationships with as we're on that journey to kind of figure out where they're at, where we're at, and how we can still maintain a relationship with them while understanding what they came from. Because yeah, you're exactly right, Karen. So many people have come from really serious stuff. It's not easy to be a human being on this earth. And life, especially for previous generations, well, for a lot of people, but especially if you were coming from an impoverished situation, poverty leaves a mark, and it is difficult to climb out of that and kind of shed some of that baggage. But and hopefully we can have more of this discussion. I'm going to go ahead and show this video really quick. And like I said, I'm going to try to run this for about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. We'll just see how it goes. And I can drop the link in the chat as well, because it is longer, but I encourage people, if you're interested in this type of conversation and this type of kind of taking accountability for where you're at in your own personal life and wanting to cultivate personal growth. And I don't say this from a perspective of any like hippy dippy, whatever. I think that we have a lot of power in our own life to be able to become healthier, well-adjusted, happier adults. And that is a trickle-down effect and a trickle-up effect as well. So without further ado, let me do this. Share my screen. Make sure my audio is on here.
Real quick before you start, I'll just let people know in the chat. If you have a show or a website, go ahead and drop the link in the chat. We're not going to stop you from doing that. We promote each other. So just wanted to address that real quick, Ash.
Okay. Let me get this up there.
We are living through a massive social trauma, not a metaphorical one, a real psychological, cultural trauma, and nobody's allowed to talk about it. For years now, people have been losing jobs, friends, reputations, sometimes their lives, not because they did something monstrous, but because someone decided they deserve to be destroyed. And the people who get a little rush from that destruction, they call it justice, and they appoint themselves the judge, jury, and executioner. It's not justice. It's not even debate. It's the opposite. It's cluster B bullying, and it's hurting a lot of people. And it's been running unchecked to the point that it's clearly tearing everyone apart. People are isolating, they're shutting down, they're self-harming, and they're losing touch with that most beautiful, essential part of themselves, their conscience. Your once caring friend has become vicious, high on some story that they're telling themselves that makes them heroic, and anyone who disagrees with them, someone who has to be stopped. After 32 years of working on trauma healing, I can tell you, this is the same old abuse pattern so many of us have lived through before. In families with narcissistic abuse or alcoholism or addiction, not the jolly kind, and unregulated emotional raging against anyone in the home who defies their belief in their own absolute power. The abuser can't find relief from their abuse. That's always the belief of a person who is lashing out, right? That if they lash out hard enough, if they get it all out, they will feel relief from their volcanic rage inside. You get yelled at, and if you don't obey and cower, their aggression will just keep escalating. They recruit other family members to gang up on you, and they often will, in some homes like mine, get violent. Now, if you fight back, you get hurt first. If you're silent, they might leave you alone, or they might escalate on you. But either way, enduring that panicked state that this requires, suppressing yourself day after day, year after year in the face of bullying and abuse, it eats at your soul. So many people who have been through this say they don't really know who they are, and it's been silenced out of them. Some people do the hurt people thing and then go on to abuse others. Some people self-destruct. So for me, when people out there are using raging, screaming, and violence to get emotional catharsis or to get belonging or to, achieve their so-called justice, I see it for what it is, because you could see it in their eyes. It's irrational. It's not really about you, but it can hurt you. And it's abuse on a massive cultural scale. Now, some of you are going to attack me for saying this, but it's true. And all these people hiding and cowering and staying silent so they don't get hurt, it's creating the perfect conditions to give millions of people PTSD. If you've ever been canceled or ostracized or publicly shamed or suddenly cut off from a group, you know the terror. It's not just embarrassment. It's a kind of psychological annihilation, and you're exiled from your community. Your friends stop calling. Your inbox goes silent. It's not rational. The people who hate you will say that they're demanding accountability, or they'll evoke famous villains like Harvey Weinstein or something to justify what they're doing to you, which has nothing to do with all of that. Literally, they will believe that they are the good guys when they do this. Or B, they'd have to admit that their whole belief system, in which they see themselves as some kind of holy crusader for kindness and goodness or a better world or something, they'd have to see it's false. And that's very hard for anyone to face in themselves, but especially people with narcissistic tendencies. So they double down on their idea of what what's right and wrong and punishment. And they'll go to their graves, most of them, swearing up and down that the people they hurt had it coming. Now, it puts the rest of us in a state of hypervigilance, afraid to say anything, afraid to defend other people when they get attacked. Have you ever been in that situation where you're like, do I say anything? Because if you defend somebody.
Okay, so and like I said, this is about a 16-minute video, but it's really good. I encourage you to watch the whole thing if this happens to be an area of interest for you. But I thought it was very topical because not only do we have the constant fighting and the bickering and the reactionary responses to every news story that comes out in some way and somehow, but we also, of course, have the phenomenon of canceling people and using bullying in that way. So I just wanted to put it out there that this is obviously an issue that so many people contend with online, and just knowing, hopefully validating that for a little bit and putting it on people's radar may offer some comfort to know that, again, like a lot of what we talk about here, that it is being stoked intentionally, and these people are essentially being programmed to be reactionary to you. And we can make the choice to recognize that and step back from it if it happens to be an issue that you struggle with.
I wanted to point out a comment. So Greg Hume 121 in chat, he says 90% of the population isn't worth integrating with. Only 10% of the population is moral and sane. And I would argue that probably less than 10%, I mean, depending on what you consider to be moral. But what was mentioned in that video, people justifying their thoughts and feelings because they compare themselves to someone who's really off the rails, like an Epstein or a Weinstein. I see a lot of that where people maybe are not at peace with themselves, but they're like, I'm better than this person. So it doesn't allow them room for self-improvement, if that makes sense. And I've seen a lot of that. And when it comes to living in your trauma, and I put this in the chat as well, people who live in their trauma will tend to seek out that same thing through social media, put themselves in a box and stay trapped in that trauma. And they won't get out of it. They won't escape it. And that is all by design. This whole system is designed to keep us traumatized. And I don't know, just some thoughts that I had going through my mind as I'm reading chat and listening to your clip there. Thoughts on it, ladies?
Personally, I don't think that people really take the time to think about the other person's position or point of view. Most people are so stuck in their own heads and their own trauma and drama cycles that they don't think about how the other person feels, the golden rule. I'm going to give an example, a personal example. I was reading a post on Facebook on a neighborhood group in the town I grew up in the other day, and an Indian woman, a woman of Indian heritage, India, not Native American, said that her husband was had an accident or a little fender bender in a parking lot, and the white woman got out and said that she was going to call ICE if he didn't pay her damages or something like that. And so it just sounded horrible, the discrimination that was happening against these people of Indian descent. And then she called the white woman a Karen. Well, hello. So she is upset because people are making fun of or are reacting to her husband and her nationality and generalizing them. And she's using a name that happened to be the most popular girl name the year I was born to generalize about white women and about people with my name. So to me, and then I have people who I think or think they're my friends who use that phrase. And I think they just don't realize what they're saying and that how that might make me feel. And it feels like bullying after a certain point to have your name equated to being a certain age, a certain color, and being a jerk or an idiot or just not a nice person. So I think that this type of bullying or social how would you say it? Ostracize, ostrac-
Ostracization.
yeah, there you go. Happens so
Ostriches.
many times and in so many ways that we don't even realize. Most of us don't even realize the words that are coming out of our mouths and the actions that we are taking may be hurtful to people. So I think that people need to pay more attention to what they're saying and what they're doing. And truly, the golden rule, I feel, is the key to this in many ways, is putting yourself in another person's shoes. We all have to live here together. We have to get along, and that's empathy. And empathy is what is being engineered out of our society at the current time. It's all about cheap thrills, me, more, victimization, feeling that you're the victim, getting what you can, getting ahead, where we need to cooperate and think about each other, care about each other. And the meaning that we were talking in chat, it used to be, even though we were poor, and my great grandparents were sharecroppers, most of us had immigrant family. Going back who knows how many generations, but one side of my family, they were sharecroppers. They were poor, but they had a family. They had hard lives, but they had good lives. They have great stories. They had great togetherness and great love with each other. And they had the thing was they had to cooperate with each other. Everybody had a purpose. These days, the family doesn't see each other quite often, but also young people don't feel they have a purpose. They don't feel needed. Elderly people may not feel needed. It used to be that the grandparents were looked upon to help with childcare or prepping or pass on knowledge or tell stories or there was value to having age and experience, as there was value to the young people. They had assigned responsibilities and chores, and these days we see so many young people that don't even really have responsibilities around the house. They don't feel that they're needed. They don't have a purpose and a place in society. And with AI and the digitization that we're seeing, the impersonalization and the isolation, we're just losing our connections with one another, with the earth, with the cycle of life, with having a purpose, and with enjoying each other's company, and also being okay being alone. That we need to be okay with that too. So
Before
I
we
just
jump over
wanted
to
to throw that
Ashley,
in there.
I wanted to touch on something before I forget, Karen. This has come up in multiple chats, what you're talking about, calling people Karens, and I'm guilty of it. It was a trend. It was a trend that, the blue-haired liberal crying about stuff that she doesn't understand, and they tagged it Karen, and it's gone viral since then. But this has come up in multiple chats that I hang out in where people are tired of it. So I want to do a poll for our audience out there. Leave it in the comments, leave it in the chat, preferably comments so I can tally them up later. What should we replace it with? I had mentioned an ex-girlfriend's name. I said, let's do that as revenge to her, but that's not Christ-like. So
Why do you
not
want
a
to put it
person.
on anybody? Why do
Exactly.
you want to do it on anybody's name?
Exactly. So let's come up with a different name. If you want to classify a person who is pretty much uninformed, but out there advocating for stupid stuff with the face tattoo and the blue hair, that's kind of what the Karen reference was those kind of people. And as Karen said, it's typically a middle-class white woman. But let's come up with a different thing to call
How
it.
about
Let's take that back.
idiot, uninformed, ignorant, selfish, short-tempered, short-sighted? We have plenty of describing words for those people.
Well, we had something called normie, right? We use the word normie.
We do, but it's not pinning it on a certain person's name.
I don't know. I just wanted to throw a poll out there. Leave it in the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think we should do? Because I'm not using the word I'm not using Karen's name anymore to refer to someone who's an idiot. So
thank you very much. I don't stay where people use that term. I'll listen, I'll stay one or two times, but I unsubscribe. Why beat myself up? It really bothers me, so I don't stay.
No, that's fair. But that's all I had. I want to throw that poll out there.
Delusionals, that works, Will.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say about these people is that first of all, this is what often we see this displayed in internet culture. Sometimes you have examples closer to home, like Karen's example of the car accident, but a lot of this stuff is shown to us on X. This is shown to us by an algorithm. So the thing that I think need to keep in mind is, first of all, we don't know what's real and what's not for these random videos that we see online. Is it staged? Is it AI? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's totally real. Then the other layer to that is that we're dealing with people who obviously are not mentally well. For them to lose it on a perfect stranger over something insane, or something that is actually not a big deal, or something that you could just agree to disagree on or have a friendly discussion, that is indicative of where we're at as far as wellness of these people. That is the action of a mentally unwell person that is absolutely pushed to their breaking point. They do have responsibility to recognize that about themselves, but so many people don't. And I certainly have been guilty of this. So I think when you see people that are acting unhinged, that is because that unhinged behavior, just like the deaths of despair, just like the many people that we see being addicted, just like the many destroyed families or families. Somebody was talking in the comments about people divorcing, like children divorcing their parents, like all of these things. That's because that is being cultivated, because it's in the interest of the predator class who is trying to nudge and change behavior and herd people into, quote, dysfunctional subgroups to keep people from being healthy, happy, and well adjusted. So, and a lot of that stuff is simply to rile people up and to get them to engage in this behavior and to start just basically what I refer to as crap coding, right? Because a certain issue has been crap coded for whatever reason. And what that facilitates is for you to no longer critically think about it. It allows you to dismiss that person, what they're saying by X, Y, and Z, but because they have like the blue hair or whatever we want to say. So, or because they're a white woman or whatever it may be, it allows us to dismiss what they're saying. And I'm not saying that, oh, we need to listen to these people that are acting unhinged online. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that there is an interest in crap coding issues to make them very easy for us to write off and not put a second thought about it. And that is, it continues to contribute to the division that we see. It's just like whenever we try to talk to people about, let's say, like a health issue or concerns within the medical industrial complex, then because of the propaganda that has been going on for many, many, many decades now, people are able to just write you off because you are being critical of the medical system. Instead of, let's sit down, have a discussion. Why do you think that? I'm interested in where you're coming from. That has really been removed in a lot of these interactions, whether it's something just quick reactionary of someone acting unhinged, or it is us trying to have a good faith discussion with someone and like, hey, I care about you. And I just want to put this on your radar that maybe X, Y, and Z deserves you to do a little digging. And this is what I have read about it and what I think about it. Let's talk.
Right on. And I just, this is kind of cool that we're having this conversation after the clip you played talking about the trauma. And I just want to say, part of this show today, for those listening, and I hope you all are enjoying getting away from the cycle. I mean, aren't you glad we're not talking about ICE, Don Lemon, Epstein files? This is stuff that they're hammering on us over and over and over again, causing trauma and division. And I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. I was taking notes as you were talking, Ashley, but I think that was a very relevant clip you played. And so we're talking about other stuff today, something that'll get you thinking and maybe things you wouldn't normally think about because they control what you think about.
I think it's interesting that it wasn't too long ago that the quote unquote liberals were the ones that would have locked us up for not participating in a certain medical procedure. But at this point, the liberals, quote unquote, are the ones that personally I can more relate to with what's going on as far as ICE and the militarization on the streets. So I've seen it throughout my life how these labels have flipped and flopped, and we have these divisions and these thought silos, thought prisons. And some of us are more open-minded. We see we try, I strive to see the forest, not just individual trees. And so many of us are just stuck in one little area of the forest, one little grove, and we don't see the forest for the trees, and we don't really even strive to. I think that's maybe the difference with some of us, is that we really are striving to see the forest for the trees and to understand the subtleties. And I don't agree with anybody about everything, but there are certain things I can agree more with some people on, and certain things other people I can agree with other things on. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to talk to both of those people or enjoy the relationship that I can have with those people. There are some people, I don't know what they think about politics, but I know what they think about other things, and I appreciate them for those things that we do have in common. So I think that that's a trap that those of us in this community tend to fall into, is thinking that we can't get along with people just because we don't agree on everything. But we're not going to agree on everything anyway, but we have to find the commonalities, and the commonalities are that we're human, that we hopefully love and try to do good in the world, and live our lives well, and not be harmful to others. And we know that everybody isn't that way, but I think it's more than 90%. I mean, less than 90% that are not fit to deal with at all. I think that most people that I deal with in public, they're pretty good. They're pretty decent. They still have manners, or people still let each other go in front of them in the grocery store, or hold the door for you, or help people out quite often. So, and the more we do that, the more that I think that we'll notice those things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's, one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit here is that online, we know we're shown certain things and by certain accounts that are this leaning, whatever, and they have some sort of agenda in addition to the revenue that they can drum up by posting rage bait online. But then when we step out to real life, like for example, I was at an event last night. I was around a whole bunch of people. I didn't care what anybody's politics was. I had a great time talking to people, letting them know that I appreciate them, that they matter, that what they have said and done in this time frame have mattered, that they've been very important. I don't care how they voted. I talked to or anything else, because that's the other thing, is that we used to have something known as social graces or decorum, and that has been beat out of people in some cases. But when I think about that, but then I'm in this social setting and everyone was totally lovely. Nobody was upset with me for existing or whatever. So I definitely think that if we separate and try to recognize the online manipulation for what it is, and that yes, some things are real life on there, but overall that is not real life. When you go out and quote touch grass and you interact with real human beings, then a lot of people still do have some decorum and social graces. And I think that COVID made it really, really difficult because it was very overt. The people that didn't want to be around you, the people that acted like you were going to kill them just by speaking to them or shaking their hand, things like that. I think that went a long way to really isolate people and make them more hyper aware of these differences in a real life setting. And I believe that there's still some of that still in existence, but by far and away, I find that my interactions in real life lately have been very pleasant. And I was somebody who made, I kind of went without doing that stuff for a long time, and I've been making a deliberate effort to do things and go be around people and have real conversations and get a real hug from someone and tell them that I appreciate them and tell them thank you. And these things are good for the soul. They're very good for the soul. So I think we can, we can learn by focusing more on our real life interactions.
I wanted to throw on that, and this wasn't on the docket for today, but I will throw it on the docket. Last minute observations that I made over the past week. You're talking about rage bait and, interacting with the world around us. I've been going back and forth on Twitter, just telling these people, for some reason, my feed started getting filled up with this green nonsense, right? And people stating things that I know are not fact, messing with, charts and things like that, misquoting things and I was like, why can't I teach people that they're completely wrong? So I would react to it. And the more I reacted, the more of this crap got pushed to my feed. And I realized this is the point of social media, is to rage bait you into clicking. I mean, there's a couple points, but for someone like me who has obviously, I'm a quasi political guy, right? Religious and political guy. So they're going to feed me stuff that's going to make me not happy, not enrich me. I'm not saying that I should be in an echo chamber. I want to get information from the spectrum, but they're going to intentionally feed me stuff that's going to make me click, reply, dislike, whatever I got to do, because that's how they make their money. And it's not good for your soul to be wrapped. And Tiger talks about this all the time. Franco always talks about not feeding your soul this nonsense. So what I did was I literally did this 3 days ago. I went through, and all these people that kept replying to my reply, telling me how stupid I was. And I'm like, don't call me stupid. Look at the facts. Look at that. Here's a link to this. Here's a link to that. Here's a link to this study. We were engaging. So Twitter's making money, right? They're making money, and we're all both getting enraged. I went and there was only 3 accounts that I blocked immediately. That stuff went away. So the algorithm figured out that I don't want to see this conflict anymore. And so I started getting fed the opposite. Now I'm getting fed constantly people that are on my side of the argument, which is how nonsense the green agenda is. And I'm not sure if I want to see that either. I might block those. I'm not really sure, how to curate my own algorithm to where I can see a spectrum of ideas and judge it for myself, because I'm either getting filtered into a hate everything box and argue, or I'm getting filtered into a confirmation bias box. And that's what social media does to get you to interact, because that's how they make their advertising.
And it steals your time. It steals your time, because we can argue with people on X all day and who cares? Like, it may not even be a real person. So I just personally have that rule for myself that I don't spend time arguing with people on the internet.
I never have.
We don't know if they're real, but what we do know is that our time is getting wasted for what?
The challenge, raises your heart, your blood pressure, your heartbeats, your cortisol level. It gets you worked up and puts you in poor health. And you may carry that anger around with you. And as people in the chat are saying, it may be a bot, or it may be the AI algorithm. There are bots that I've heard there are bots that follow our own personal bots following us around, kind of like egregores or spiritual attachments following us around as we go about the internet. And there are little angel on your shoulder and devil on your shoulder waiting to see what we do and pushing us hither and yon. So it's really important I feel, not to engage with those things. It's just not worth the time or effort.
The challenge for people who have a good heart, and this is where I fall into the trap, is that you don't want to see people get hurt. And I didn't interact with social media hardly at all, and didn't do a podcast. I watched a couple of podcasts, never interacted in chat. But when the shot rolled out, I knew this was life and death. So when I seen misinformation, I wanted to, and when I say misinformation, I'm not talking about us that say probably don't want to get this shot. People who say, oh yeah, it's safe and effective, it's great. And then you got to come back and it won't change your DNA. It won't do this. It won't do that. And then you got to come back and say, no, go look at this, go look at that. So out of an abundance of care for others, I wanted to jump in and tell them, don't believe this information until you look at this information. But, I guess we got to draw the line to say, if someone believes that they should drive their car less because of CO2, do I really need to take on that argument about whether CO2 is even a greenhouse gas, whether it follows the warming trend or leads the warming trend? I mean, and that's where we get sucked in. We start off caring for others, taking what we know. And I know, Karen, you know a lot of stuff about the medical, about vaccines. You know a lot, and you kind of want to warn people not to damage their children and their grandchildren. But at the same time, how far do we want to take that? Do we wind up in this trap where we're fighting everybody online? And that's just making Twitter or Facebook money, when we do that. So I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. That's how I got started into the thing. And sometimes you got to step back, I guess, and say, God, pray for them, that God, please show these people that they're wrong, so they don't harm themselves, and walk away from it.
And it's not for us to say that experience wasn't theirs to have, and that for them to learn and grow through that experience. And I would not wish that on anybody, of course, but some people only learn through experience. So it may be that other people end up being saved through the injury that one person unfortunately had to have. And I don't think that you really can convince anybody of much of anything online. And if they're a stranger, you need to know the person. And this is just the conclusion that I've come to, is that you really need to know a person somewhat. They need to know who you are in order to really have much weight with them, as far as those types of health decisions go.
I want to put a pin in that thought where you can't convince someone online of something. I want to let Ashley finish up, and that's going to, when you're done, Ashley, I have a topic based off of what Karen just said that we can jump into.
Perfect. Yeah. I do think that in the desire to heal and educate people, there's really a balance of that we need to kind of figure out for ourselves, because definitely us here are interested in doing educating and having conversations that educate us, and this like infinity of continuing to learn and help each other. But I do think that there's a point where this is just my 2 cents, but like we recognize that we are not a savior of other people, especially people that we don't know, and that we can pray that people who don't know me will come into my life and that I could hopefully make a difference for them. And you are more likely to make progress with people in your own life that are willing to have those conversations. So there's a lot of nuance there of like addressing these issues for people who are ready to have them addressed while being open to conversation. I'm not arguing, but I'm also not your savior. If I'm not your parent, then I am not your person to try to make sure that you do everything, because people, especially as an adult, people have to make their own decisions, and there is personal accountability. And especially us in the, if we're in the liberty space or the anarchist space or whatever you want to call it, of believing that personal responsibility is a key to getting out from under government overreach, then people have to have responsibility for their own lives and their own decisions. Just like if I had a friend who was an alcoholic or something, and I was like, you shouldn't be drinking. And I'm saying that out of care. However, at a point, that person, maybe I could change that conversation. Like, I will help you get into treatment if you want to talk about this. I'll be here, or whatever it is. But we're not their boss, So I think that there's this balance of like, how much energy are we throwing good energy after bad versus using opportunities when they come available, and realizing that we're not the boss or the managers or whatever we want to say of other people, especially strangers that we don't know.
And that goes back to teaching. I was a teacher. And you need to read the room, and you also need to read the individual. Everybody's at a different place. Everybody has eyes and ears to hear and see different things at different times. And when you're working with a student or somebody that you're trying to help, you need to meet them where they are and go from there. And so you have to put out feelers. That's my strategy when I'm moving about the world with my little trying to be an emissary of some ideas. And I put out feelers and see where someone's at. What do they know? What do they think about food or food labels or organic raw milk? What do they think about that? Might they be open to that possibility? If I said, "Oh, I really love this raw milk," might that make a difference on the person who's choosing the A2 milk, but it's actually organic and not raw? Because they already have their mind open somewhat to the idea that A2 milk is more healthy. Perhaps they might be open to the idea of raw milk being even more healthier than that. So you have to read where a person is in their as far as open mind or on their journey on different topics, and then you can go from there. If somebody absolutely is not open to it, all you're going to do is alienate them. And if you keep pushing, but if you don't push too hard, you may, if it's somebody you interact with regularly, you may, if you don't push too hard, have the opportunity at a later time to help them see some new ideas. So it's really important to not to push, to be kind. And my dad always said, kill them with kindness. And I really think that there is something to that. I really do. And then be respectful. When I was teaching, every morning on the daily bulletins, they would read the daily news, and then the rule was, and remember to treat everybody with courtesy and respect. And in the years when that was being said every morning, that made a difference in the school climate, that the leaders of the school and the teachers and the students were hearing that and thinking about that every day. And when we had a change of administration, that was thrown out the window, and you could tell. So it's up to us to have a climate and set the climate that we want to have and enjoy and live with.
Ashley, did you have anything else on your clip you wanted to talk about before we segue into a very good segue, by the way, from Karen's comments to my topic?
No, I think we're good. I think we've been pretty comprehensive on the subject of, of like watering the grass where it grows. We've got a lot of good things to be grateful for. We want to cultivate, I know for me, speaking personally for myself, to be a better person, a healthier, happier, well-adjusted person. And that includes learning how to deal with people and navigate the current, the current situation that we find ourselves in, while not losing my humanity, which I have been close to a few times, and especially during COVID times. So just kind of putting down some of the anger that I was experiencing there and trying to cultivate real life relationships. But I think it's been pretty good coverage of that.
Yeah, I like how this was completely unplanned. We were just like, hey, let's all bring some topics, but it's really melding well together, segueing well. But to go to Karen's point about reading the room, knowing who you can convince. And this is the problem when we go back to my example of how, I can argue with somebody on climate change or how inflation works or whatever the argument is that gets these social media companies lots of money because we're interacting with it. And they feed me that stuff to cause conflict to get that money. We all have our own set of facts, right? So I can drop a peer-reviewed paper, and then they can drop a peer-reviewed paper that completely contradicts one another. And they're not going to change. I'm not going to change because I consider their information to be bogus, and they consider my information to be bogus, which could both be true. It can. So that leads us into one of my topics is information control. And let me go ahead and bring this up. Grokpedia. I want to talk about this. And this, I know you have a lot to speak on, Karen. You talk about keeping books, keeping analog. And I think that that's going to be increasingly important that we do that. Even if we have stuff digital, that we save historical copies of that digital stuff, like PDFs or what have you. It's very important because we're getting to a stage right now where everything is going cloud-based, and it's being rewritten in real time. So our history and our knowledge base is being changed based off of politics. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we could free talk it. Okay, I don't want to spoil it. So let me mute myself and play this out.
Elon Musk has the best solution to Wikipedia I have seen in my life. It's called Grokpedia. Instead of anonymous humans with political bias, Grokkipedia uses AI. This AI looks up everything about a topic on the internet. It watches every video, every article, every book, every tweet, and it summarizes everything in one article without bias. Grokkipedia wrote a 10,000-word article about Nas Daily, and it was shockingly accurate. 95% correct. But the AI made one giant mistake. It said I married and divorced, but I was never married. Instead of
Okay, it's kind of a long video. I'll pause it there and just say that this is and narrow way. Levi's in the chat, and he'll understand what I'm talking about with this. When he gets into it with CCC, he knows who I'm talking about. CCC will go to AI to rebut, and we know that the AI is fallible. It's absolutely fallible. But I was looking at this Grokkipedia, which has been around for about 6 months to a year now. It's grown up, it's blown up, trying to replace Wikipedia. But the difference, and I have some more videos to play. The difference between Wikipedia, which is not really a reliable source, but I do like Wikipedia because they cite their sources, so you can go check that for yourself. You know, it's kind of a leaping off point. Whereas Grokkipedia or any other AI that summarizes and writes its own articles gives you information that's kind of let's look at climate change, a consensus. It's not fact. It's not true. It's still based off of things that it has scoured off the internet, scavenged from people still. So it's still fallible, very fallible. I don't know. But the thing that I wanted to get into was how when that becomes the authoritative figure on knowledge, on our human knowledge base, and it could be changed and nobody will know it was changed. It all happens in the background. So all of a sudden, E equals MC squared is E equals MC cubed, and everyone says that that's, and I don't even believe in that crap. But anyway, you see where I'm getting at. So your thoughts on that? I got a couple of videos after this that talk about the difference between Wikipedia, which is still humans inputting their knowledge, their research, and then that's a collaborative effort. And I should have let that video play a little longer because it talks about being consolidated versus not consolidated. Versus deconsolidated or whatever. But anyway, I'll let y'all talk about that.
Well, I'll just really quick chime in and say that it's 1984. We were told that this was going to happen. They are changing history in real time. We saw this happening on a more basic level with the changing of well-known definitions to things such as herd immunity and inoculation and vaccination and things like that. And I think that once you get to a certain point with the tyrannical boot on your throat or on your heels or however you want to say that, that this is, it's like the wheel of time. It happens every time. And there's an interest in obscuring the truth from people, as well as building trust. This is something that James Corbett talked about a lot, that they want to continue to dumb things down. So you just have buttons like dogs going and hitting like those little talking buttons, treat. That's where they want to get us, is to removing the critical thinking, removing the ability to work on things yourselves. We see that with modern day cars. So I think that this is just, and I'm not even necessarily saying it was planned, although I think that we know when we're looking at dead internet theory and we're looking at search results that should be there and they're not there. And we find an article in today's day and time, and then you go back and look for the link and it's a dead end link. Like, we know there is a deliberate effort to keep us from finding information that is contradictory to the current thing. So I think that this is the nature of the beast. When you get to this point in where we're at with our government and overreaching government, but it's on steroids with this addition of AI and just trying to cultivate essentially brain rot for the population.
Real quick before Karen goes, you got a little trinket in my brain going. In a court of law, you're not allowed to have hearsay, right? It has to be firsthand knowledge to prove something is factual. In the days of record keeping, since we've been printing newspapers and things like that, we had what was called microfiche. Okay. And you can go back right now and still, unless they're all gone now, in the library, you can go and look up, everything was archived, not on a AI data farm thing, whatever. You can go back and read what was actually written back then. But we are slowly moving the window to say, AI, what did it say back then? And that can be changed. It becomes hearsay. It's not firsthand knowledge. It is hearsay. AI is telling you what that they heard or they read or they researched. So think of it as a court of law. Is this truth or not truth? And then that goes back to Karen's point of, to both of y'all's point of why do we get in arguments with people on the internet and feed this beast with our emotions? Because I can't prove what article you're giving me is hearsay and the one I'm giving you is hearsay. Unless it comes from the horse's mouth, it's just a summary of someone else's work. And that's what we're getting closer and closer to, the computer doing that. Not, like I can write a book, right? I can write a book and I can research for my book off of other people's books. Is that really fact? Or is that just my opinion of their opinion? And that's where we're going. So yeah, it is a waste of time. I'm trying to tie these two topics together because they are so closely related, but we emotionally invest our time into these arguments that we really shouldn't be doing that, Anyway, I'm sorry to ramble on like that, but Karen, your thoughts.
Okay, as somebody who has dug through the microfiche in university libraries, and I wanted to talk to Peter Seakosh about this because he's such a great researcher. I'm wondering if he still goes into the microfiche he lives in the San Francisco area, and there are some great libraries there. UC San Francisco, Stanford, a lot of great libraries in that area. And I'm wondering if he does that. And I am, unfortunately, I've seen this happen in the schools. There were some great resources, science resources that were just ditched, thrown out of the resource lab. Somebody made the decision that this is old, we're throwing this away, we're going to use the new ones. And the teachers that were used to going into the resource lab, which is just a classroom that has the books and things that we can pull to use to teach lessons or units. What happened to the AIM science kits? What happened to, those are old. We're doing this new one now, but we liked those. They were great. The kids enjoyed them. They were hands-on. They were more traditional is what it was. So I think that we're going to see that movement. And the thing that really bothers me, one of the things is that we won't really have a say at some point, just like the flock cameras being put in, the data centers coming, people are trying to push back, but we're not always successful. And we're seeing legislation that supersedes local areas, supersedes states, even, and federal is overarching in some cases. And I'm afraid that we're going to see libraries being done away with. Just like
I agree with that. It's
the AI being fed into the library, the books being fed into the AI and then get rid of the books. I'm really worried about the major libraries, and I live in a university town, and that is a sizable library, and there are treasures in that library. The great works going way back, the founding fathers' works. So just think about what's in the Vatican Library that we all talk about that we don't have access to. So I'm afraid that and we know that over time, over millennia, history has been rewritten, and I'm sure we've lost a lot of these things, but we still have quite a bit of that treasured history, old newspaper microfiche and records and the back issues. And it costs money to store these things, and it needs to be done carefully in order to preserve them, but it can be done. So I think that it's incumbent on each one of us to save your books, go to used bookstores, pick up some books when you can. They're not all that expensive. I've been trying to buy books throughout this COVID period to document this period in history. So I have quite a few books now from the COVID times, which I call pre-COVID, the before times. And I have a lot of books from the past too. So I know it's an effort to store all of those things, but I think that it's incumbent upon us to do that for the future and for the kids. And teach your kids to read. Read to your kids every day. Read to the kids. Get them off the dang computer and read to them every single day. Have them read with you. Ingrain it in your children and grandchildren that books are special. Books are great. Have some special books. My daughter loved to read when she was little. My grandson loves to read books. He loves books. So take the time to buy books, to get books at used bookstores, pass your books on, and read with your kids. It's so important, and we're losing that. You see so many teachers now up in arms because the kids can't read. College professors saying, I assign a passage in a textbook or a book, and nobody can read it. And even if they read it, they don't understand it. So we're being dumbed down I think at lightning speed. Really quickly. We're losing our ability to think critically, to read, to process information, to just sit with ourselves and a book. And I'm even falling prey to that. I would rather listen to things than read at this point most of the time, because I can multitask. I can be doing something and listening to information. But I don't trust audiobooks, and I don't trust Kindle, because I've always, from the time Kindle, the app came out, I said, Kindle, kindling fire. That I made that association immediately in my brain. Kindle means kindling. It's fire. It's a way that books will be burned. So
I did want to mention, Levi had mentioned this, and I did this for prepping. He said, download as many things that are useful now while you can, before, and I would add to that, before it's homogenized. And to kind of dovetail that, let's take the Civil War, for example. We're talking about written history. So the Civil War, you have books and documentation based off of people's personal diaries, both North and South. So two different perspectives. You have letters written to people that they base research on and books off of. And you have the official narrative. So when it comes to the Civil War, this is just an example here. You can view the Civil War from a multitude of perspectives as written by the people who wrote them. But when you start feeding that into AI, it becomes homogenized, it becomes watered down, and you end up with one supposed truth that AI is going to determine, which will most likely be along the official narrative, but it may have a couple tidbits from here and there, but you're not going to get the full perspective, the entire 360 view of what was in people's mind at the time, from a South perspective and a North perspective, or you get what I'm saying. And that's where we're going to, and I would call it homogenization of information. I think that's a good term that we can maybe coin, homogenization of information, which isn't the truth. It's an agreed upon truth. But anyway, I want to throw that in there while it was fresh on my brain. And yes, Levi, I do download like gardening tips and stuff like that, and I keep that on an offline phone on a memory card. Hopefully won't be nuked if we have an EMP, but that'll be knowledge that will be lost, because books are going away and everything's going digital. So we have to figure out a way to mitigate that. Anyway, Ashley, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've pretty well covered it. Books, physical books especially, are very important. I do use my Kindle sometimes, but if it's a book that is other than, like some basic fiction kind of stuff, I try to have a physical copy as well. So I can do both, have both, make notes, whatever. Because sometimes it is easier for me to have a Kindle, but I have the awareness that this copy cannot be trusted, and I want to have my physical copy as well. So that's a huge issue, I think, going forward, is going to be trying to change definitions and news in real time. We've already seen that. And to, like what Karen's saying, to go back even to what we don't know in the Vatican. So there's a lot of history that's already been obscured from us. So I'm not, this is not an area that I'm necessarily freaking out about. I just try to acknowledge that I that this is something that we need to keep in consideration and try to have, like the physical copies or the downloaded copy based on the physical that cannot be edited going forward. And it's just one more thing that we need to be aware of in regards to the manipulation of us and really trying to, I mean, it's a really another form of psychological warfare to change articles and definitions in real time, and knowing that there are people that are out there who are recognizing this and arguing against this, and it doesn't help, it doesn't change. Like, this is now the official definition of X, Y, and Z. So I think that is more for just psychological warfare on the populace as well. And I think it starts with mindfulness, and like what you're talking about, doing your prep. Try to be participating with your library, try to get as many books as you can. We were talking about in the chat, they're talking about going to your used bookstores. You can find a lot of really good stuff at the used bookstore. Sometimes it's Goodwill or whatever, and sometimes there's dedicated bookstore. I've heard a lot about, I don't have them in my area, but Half Price Books. And so we can go and find some really cool stuff. And I do think the pricing of physical books is also another form of censorship that we're experiencing. So if there is an older book that they don't want you to have, then maybe it's just $600 to try to buy it used, whether that's on Amazon or one of the other, thrift books, AB books, like whatever that may be, another form of censorship. So we just got to do what we can while we can.
I got a quick announcement to make. I just got this text in. Y'all remember Lyndall, right? Music as a Metaphor podcaster. She's been on the show a few times. So just so y'all know, my dad passed away. I forget how many years ago now, but he passed away in November, right? So wake me up when November ends, right? But I wrote a song for him, put a lot of thought into the words, and the lyrics are all mine. And I used an AI program to put together a song, and I just could not, talking about the personal, and I know Karen's going to have something to say on this, the personal relationship with music and art and literature. There's something, like, even if it goes digital, there's something about having something physical, right? So I did not publish this song. I would not publish this song because it's so personal to me that it would be fake and it would degrade my father's memory for me to artificially, even though my father was a computer guy. He was a computer guy on our family. And that's how I got familiarized with computers. But I reached out to Lyndall. I reached out to a few people, but I reached out to Lyndall and I said, can you take this song? And I sent her the AI version. I sent her the lyrics. And I said, can you do me a real person song? And she did it. So that will be coming out soon.
Good. That'll
And
be
the point,
hearing it.
well, the point of it is that I could have just stuck with that and said good enough, because it was pretty good. I mean, the AI version was pretty good. I had to tweak it quite a bit to make it sound like I wanted. But what came out of collaborating between me and her and other people and talking about it, there's more than just the song. There's the personal relationships that go along with that. And so I just want to make that announcement because I'm super excited that she said, I thought she forgot about it, but she's been busy and probably put a lot of work into it because she knows how important it is to me. So if you're listening, Lyndall, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
That's fantastic, Jason. One of the things when my dad died, and my dad read, I mean, I can't even express how much my dad read and over the years and studied and kept learning until the day he died. And when he died, one of my thoughts was, oh my gosh, all of those things he learned, they're just gone. All of that 81 years of studying and questioning and learning, it's just gone, but it's truly not. So but the point I wanted to make, that was just my thing about my dad and knowledge and reading, how important it is, but it's also fleeting. So we have to treasure it and take care of it. is that yes, that some people think that there's an essence when you read a book, that the essence of the person that wrote the book, that there's that spirit that comes through the book, the person who wrote it to you, or through the music, the whatever inspired that song. And a lot of artists will say they're divinely inspired or inspired from something spiritual. So when we have that human, when we hear that human voice or that song written by a human, or read the text, the stories or the poetry written by a human being, that we're actually feeling the energy and the spirit of the person who wrote that, and possibly even the spirit that inspired them to write or compose those words. So I think that it goes beyond just learning, having a skill. It goes to the spiritual essence of being human, that we aren't physical beings, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And I think that these forms of art and expression are ways to express that spiritual part of us that's having the physical experience. So in that way, they're sacred. And I also feel that books are sacred. So I'll end it on that.
All right, let me finish this piece off. I had 3 more videos to play, but I'll just summarize them here. So actually, they're not that long. I'll play them. Let's do it. So this goes into the difference, going back to the information, the difference between Wikipedia and, like I said, I don't go along with Wikipedia. When I was going to online college in the Army, some professors love that you use Wikipedia because it's a variety of sources that is, I wouldn't say peer reviewed, but it's, a lot of people they fact check it basically. And if there's something wrong with it, you can correct it. And some professors absolutely hated it. I used it to see what sources they were using, and then I would go to their source. That's what I use the research for. But again, this is about changing history basically, and the difference between what we use now, which is Wikipedia, and what Grokpedia is going to do. And it's a vast difference. So let me go ahead and mute myself and play this.
What powers each system? This is where the fundamental difference emerges, and honestly, it's pretty wild when you understand it. Wikipedia, which launched back in 2001, is built on millions of human volunteers across the globe who write and edit articles. It's collaborative, decentralized, and powered by human knowledge. Grokpedia? That's the opposite approach. It's powered by the same AI model that underpins Grok, xAI's chatbot. So basically, you can think of Grokpedia as Grok's knowledge base turned into encyclopedia form. It's AI-generated, proprietary, and hosted on a .com domain rather than Wikipedia's nonprofit .org site.
Okay, so I'll play the next one before we comment on it. The next one here. So basically you have Grok summarizing what people have done. Grok says it's going to be better. Grokpedia, whatever you want to call it, says it's going to be better, but it's still basing it off of work that people have done. But it's, as I said before, homogenization of information, and it washes out, it waters down all the different aspects. So you don't get to see everything, and that'll become clear here in a second. So I'll just play these through. We could talk it after. Here we go.
But here's where it gets more significant. When you type a query into Grokpedia, let's say Taylor Swift or PlayStation 5, you get an AI-generated encyclopedia article. The thing is, these pages have almost no images or illustrations yet. Wikipedia pages, on the other hand, are loaded with images, info boxes, maps, and diagrams that help you actually understand the topic visually.
Real quick, I wanted to point that out. Full context is very, very important, which is why illustrations were put in books in the past. Full context is absolutely important, and we're not getting that with AI. We're not getting every source. We're not getting full context. So I wanted to put a pin in that and point that out.
The interface difference is more than just aesthetics. It reflects 2 completely different philosophies about how knowledge should be presented. One says, we want to show you everything. The other says, we want to distract you as little as possible. Neither approach is inherently wrong, but they're worlds apart.
Okay, last one, and then we'll discuss. Here we go.
Wikipedia articles are written by humans, and they have to follow incredibly strict sourcing rules. We're talking about nearly every single sentence needing to cite a reliable source. If a claim isn't backed up by proof, other editors can literally challenge it and remove it. It's like having millions of fact-checkers working around the clock. In one example, Wikipedia's article on the Chola dynasty has 113 sources plus numerous reference books. That's the standard we're talking about. Grokipedia content is AI generated. Now, Musk has said that Grok produces the initial drafts and XAI's systems fact-check them, but, and this is important, the process isn't transparent. You can't see how the fact-checking works or what sources are actually being verified. Here's something that really caught my attention. Many Grokipedia entries actually mirror existing Wikipedia content. In fact, several pages have a line at the bottom admitting the content is adapted from Wikipedia, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 4.0 license. Some entries appear nearly word-for-word identical, but wait until you see this. AP News did a direct comparison and found that one Grokipedia article had only 3 linked sources, while the equivalent Wikipedia article had 113. 3 versus 113. That's the sourcing difference we're looking at. We still don't know exactly how many sources Grok is trained on or actually verifies, and that's part of the problem.
All right, so let me pull this down here. So basically what I'm seeing, and this is what I was talking about, homogenization of information. I like that term. I'm going to stick with it. Wikipedia is not the best place to go get your facts from, but it is a place that you can get your sources from. Grokopedia is taking Wikipedia information. It is summarizing it. It's writing its own articles and then referencing its own articles. So you talk about watered down, completely watered down. When this video was created, I think they had about 6 million or so articles Grok did that it pulled from to give you it, your facts, your facts, quote unquote facts, right? But now it has like hundreds of millions of articles, but those articles are written by Grok based off of something they've stripped down from other sources that are from other sources. So this is a very dangerous, slippery slope we're running down as far as our knowledge base. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can talk about this, and a lot of places you go with it. I just want y'all's thoughts on what, because we're really throwing all our eggs in one basket here. We're throwing all of our knowledge, humanity's knowledge and experience being thrown into a computer that says, you know what, I need to save space. Let's just pick a few things and say, hey, this is good enough. And let's write an article. And then guess what? The next AI is going to feed off of that article that was watered down and become even more watered down. And it's basically cannibalizing itself. And David Knight talks about this, about AI cannibalizing itself. And I'm seeing that in real time right now, even though AI has not been out that, incredibly long as far as what we can see, but it's cannibalizing itself and it's crashing and burning. A lot of people think there's an AI bubble that's going to burst. I don't know. Your thoughts?
I can go ahead. I think I'm just thinking about this. I think what we're seeing is an exaggerated process that probably has happened to history in the past, as far as it being aggregated, and we know that history belongs to the winners. That we're not hearing a true objective account of probably anything at this point. But I think that at least we had some sources that we could go to that had a bit more of a retroactive view than we did, and a variety of voices and sources and perspectives in different languages from around the world. And so as we move into this hive mind, it's a hive mind mentality, an oracle of truth, if you will. We have our dearly beloved Lieutenant Oracle of Truth in the chat, but it's an oracle of truth, and you will, big brother. So it's very scary. I think that we really need like I was saying before, it's incumbent upon us to do the best that we can. We know that once the older it only takes 2 generations, I believe it is, to completely change the narrative and to change history. You have to get, and probably that's part of why the people who died, the older ones. It was targeted at the older people because we remember before social media, the older people remember being self-sufficient, how to farm, how to garden, how to can food, how to build a house, build a cabin, clear the land, hunt for food, fish, so many skills, herbs, herbology, those types of things. So all of those things are being lost. So, and I'm starting to see backlash in some ways, as far as younger people realizing that AI is not the way to go, and trying to raise their kids away from so much technology, or at least while they're younger. So I am seeing a backlash with that in some of the younger people that I personally know. So I'm hoping that the backlash will continue, and that people who, while we have an opportunity, that backlash will grow as far as a premium on human qualities and human skills, human create art, and human. And also I've always thought this, that the elites, quote unquote, the elites, that they will have, their children will have lessons, music lessons. Their children will have real art. Their children will grow up in touch with nature and learning those skills, just as we often hear that their children perhaps aren't vaccinated. So I think that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our children do those things too, those human things.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I really think that it truly is with us. So many people are waiting for someone to save them or trust the plan. And why aren't they doing anything? Well, they is us. And so I think that it's up to us the best that we can, and to keep the faith. Keep the faith. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it kind of goes back to, I sum that up as the grass grows where we water it. That is a perfect example of what you said, of being able for us to have the ability to affect our own enrichment in our life. And that is investing in your children. It's spending time with them. It's reading them books. It's stoking their curiosity. It's letting them know that there are real world skills out there. It's encouraging them to, to make the clay figures, or I shared with Jason and Karen that my nephew had made he made his own stop motion movie with a couple of figures that he had, and he had some 3D printer or printed figures that he made himself. And that's because the kids are encouraged to do artistic pursuits, and it's not all online, of course, that's only a piece of it, but loving the art, being exposed to music, just like what Karen is saying, and having some touch with the old ways. I think that is really important, and that is an investment that almost everyone can make in our interactions with children. And I do hope that people will see that is exactly how we can affect change, and that is how, if nothing else, if we cannot change the tide of what is happening, we can be here to bear witness, and we can say, I do not consent. I do not agree. I am not going along with this. You're not going to get me in this milieu. I still remember the old way, and it's important to me. So I think a lot of change and just nourishment can happen with children and families through that alone. Just letting them know the importance of this. And like, I know when you talk to young kids today, I'm like, back in my day, we didn't have the internet. I didn't have a tablet in my hand at 3 or whatever. But so maybe I'm dating myself to these kids, but I'm at least trying to let them know, like, there was life outside of this before.
To kind of caveat on that, you're so right, Ashley. They are taking away generational knowledge that's handed off from people to people and through books. As we talked about knowledge, you know, Karen loves books. She loves that firsthand. I can go back 5 generations and read, you know, my grandmother's diary and get knowledge I can glean knowledge from that. And if we take a look at where society's gone since they federalized the education system, and we've had John Kleisik on multiple times, he talks about this, breaking up of the nuclear family. They are basically making everyone dependent on a system that never work. It won't work. And I seen a cat sighting there. I saw a cat sighting. So no podcast is complete without a guitar in the background or a cat sighting. So there you go. But now I lost my train of thought. But no, the thing is, they're trying to make people reliant on a system rather than old school knowledge and handed down from generation to generation. We can apply this to anything, X, Y, or Z, music, books, knowledge, farming. You know, everything's got to be industrialized and monetized, tokenized, and then taxed. And then people don't know what to do, because without that system, and this is coming, folks, Levi warns about this, and I agree with him on this. When that system goes away, people are going to be standing there in the dark like, I don't know what to do, because that knowledge was freely available, the curated, changed knowledge that's out there, computer generated knowledge from a homogenized information standpoint, but it's not available because I didn't learn it. It was here. It was on my black mirror, but now my black mirror don't work. So how do I plant a tomato and make it grow? That knowledge is going to be gone. And even if I did have access to it, is it correct or not? And that's kind of a simplified way of putting it, but that's where we're going, and we're going there very, very quickly. So anyway, I know Karen has a lot to say on this. This is a topic I thought you would really bite on, and so I brought it up.
I want to give one example. Last night, I was looking, my daughter, we were talking about the Z word, Zionist. She sees what's going on with that, which really shocked me that she sees that. So I wanted to take an opportunity to show her the list of dual citizens that are in Congress, and I could not find it. I went on Brave, and several sources were saying, oh, this is a myth. Oh, stop it already. This isn't true. So I don't have that list, and I did find one list, but at this point, I don't really trust that without verifying it myself. So I didn't want to share it because I don't know what to trust anymore on the internet. But it was not easy. It used to be you could find the list of dual citizens in Congress easily. And now I looked, and I was using Brave, and it was not an easy thing to find at all. So, and then TruthStream Media does a lot of videos about the dead internet theory and how the internet is being scrubbed so quickly. Even the Wayback Machine is being altered. So we're losing these resources very quickly. So if there's, and I need to take my own advice, there's a document you want to keep, you need to do that now.
Oh, let me hit on that real quick, because I was going to do something today to talk about censorship, which I couldn't do it. So twice now, every 90 days, what I've been doing is going into Rumble, into our analytics, and it says how many new followers we've gained, because I see it every week. It's like we get 12 new followers every week, but yet it doesn't reflect when we go to our webpage there on Rumble. It goes up by 3 or 4. And I'm like, how is this even possible? So maybe 6 months ago, I did this. I went and I said, okay, how many followers do we have? It was like around 600 and some odd followers. And I said, okay, let me pull up the analytics. How many did we gain in the last 90 days? And it was like over 160, like 165, 166 in 90 days, which is good for a small time channel like ours. But then I went back to the Wayback Machine, and guess what? Karen has my avatar. Look at that. That's amazing. Guess what? It only reflected 1/3 of what. So if I went back to 90 days or prior to today, it says we gained 61 followers, yet Rumble tells me we gained 160 plus followers. So what happened to the other 100? And I did that again a second time, another 90 days later, exact same result. I went to do it again to present today, and the Wayback Machine will not let me get in there to see it. It says no servers available or whatever. It gives me that I can't do it anymore. So Karen's absolutely right. They are scrubbing history in real time. So I can't even, I mean, I wish I would have saved the last one. I didn't. I was going to do another rant on it. I did do one rant on the first one I did. And I think that was on maybe here on Nights of the Storm, either that or it was on the Foxhole. I don't remember, but yeah, rock solid proof. I mean, I could literally go to court with this information, but then how can I prove it? Because the court won't be able to go in and verify it because it's gone. And that is what I'm talking about with the homogenization of information and the scrubbing of information. And Karen is so dead on about it. I understand if you got to bug out, you can't take a library with you on your back. But if you plan on hunkering down, it might be smart. Maybe you can put some on digital, put it on a memory card or something to where you have that if you have to bug out. But if we're at that point, folks, we're pretty much screwed anyway. But okay. So that's all I had. And I did want to get to one last topic. I know we're pushing on 2 hours here. Man, that goes fast, doesn't it, Ashley? It goes so fast. But I did have another topic to get to, but I want to give Karen, when she's back here in a moment, a chance to present whatever she has. And I could leave mine for another day, or we can go long. It depends on what you guys want to do.
I don't need to. I'm good. We can do what you have. That's fine with me.
Well, did you have something you wanted to cover now? Jump to your topics, and then I can, because mine, depending on how much we want to talk about it, it could take a while with the water thing, which is very, very important, because the water, when we talk about AI and data centers, that's a huge topic right now, is the water and who gets the rights to the water. This is kind of a farmer issue, but it applies, you know?
Do you have anything, Ashley?
No, my main thing was the video that I brought up from Crappy Childhood Fairy. So that was the big thing that I wanted to make sure that we covered and touched on and talked about.
Okay. Give me a minute and I will get my screen ready to share.
Right on. While you're doing that, let's do some fun stuff. I said I was going to bring some fun stuff. So I'm going to do this, if you don't mind, Karen.
Not at all.
While you're getting ready, let me share my screen. This is kind of in the spirit of Ricky. Anything is possible. He likes to do a little fun stuff, cat videos and whatnot. So I prepared a few funny things for us today. Here we go. And for those listening after the fact on audio, this is a guy who put a graphic on an elevator floor that looks like you're falling into an elevator shaft. And we're going to get the reaction of the guy who, opens it unsuspectingly. That was hilarious. I got another one I can run real quick. I found this funny today. It's a guy in a foam middle finger costume rolling down a hill on a chair, an office chair, with ICE agents chasing him. I don't know if this is real or AI, but it was still hilarious. So let's play that, and then we'll jump over to Karen.
You're looking live at downtown Minneapolis, where a protester dressed in a full-body foam hand flipping the bird is somehow outrunning federal agents on what appears to be an oversized office chair with wheels. This has been going on for several blocks now. You're looking live at downtown.
I found that to be hilarious. And Karen, to you, whatever you got. I got one more to play before we close out today that you will enjoy, Karen. But
I think you're taking a lesson from Ricky here, playing some funny feel-good stuff, which we all need to do. When I remember in the past, when I actually watched the news, there were usually at least weekly some feel-good stories or some examples of people helping people. And we absolutely need to share those things these days. So go ahead. Can you put my screen up? It should. There we go. Okay. This is a link that I found last night.
I have that same one up
in
a tab right now. Yes, I do.
Okay. So this is Elon Musk at the World Economic Forum talking about a robot that would be used, Optimus, that could be used for elder care. So I'm going to play this video of Elon Musk talking about this. It's a minute and 13 long. Hopefully the volume comes through. If not, I'm sorry.
Oh, just mute yourself. I'll let you know if the volume don't come through. But yes, I was actually going to bring this one up today too. So good choice.
Humanoid robots, and I think there will be. I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pet. If you have elderly parents, a lot of friends of mine said they have elderly parents. It's very difficult to take care of them.
Expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, and there just aren't enough people to take care of there aren't enough young people to take care of the old people.
Right.
So if you had a robot that could take care of and protect an elderly parent, I think that would be great. That would be an amazing thing to have. And I think we will have those things. So, overall, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think we're headed for a future of amazing abundance, which is very cool. And definitely, we are in the most interesting time in history. I think there's a more interesting time in history. So.
You're still muted, Karen.
I'm sorry. So that was Elon Musk at Davos talking about this Optimus and how wonderful it will be to help take care of children or the elderly, how there aren't enough people to take care of those needs. And I would say that this is exactly the opposite of what children and the elderly need, or disabled people. They need people. And we saw during COVID how people were dying basically of loneliness, locked away in care homes, care facilities, not being able to see their loved ones, not to have human contact. A baby has to have skin to skin contact to thrive. Babies who have failure to thrive often, they do so much better if they have skin to skin contact and human contact. And of course, we learn by facial expressions, by looking in each other's eyes. We have a biofield that we exchange with one another, information, and heart. The heart has an electrical field which we also share. So that's exactly what we don't need, is robots taking care of those of us who are vulnerable or who need care. So this is the robot Optimus.
Well, the masking is another really good case study, Karen, when they masked people, the kids that were growing up and just learning to speak. Maybe they're 4 or 5 years old. They're still learning vocabulary. The movement of the mouth and observing that was a very important part of that. And when
absolutely,
the teachers were masking, and even, you had people distance learning and they're wearing a mask in their own home. Like you've seen people driving down the street with their windows up by themselves in the car with a mask on. That was a huge thing. And I have a quick video I want to play that I pulled up while you're playing.
Well, I wanted to play the video of the robot.
Oh, go ahead. I got a funny one though to play after you're done to show how silly.
So this is the Optimus robot that we're speaking of here. It looks like that robot is speaking to the person, and it has glowing eyes. And Angry Tiger said it's actually the bad robot in a cartoon series, that is the robot. And he said Hell to the no. So, yeah, it just
I
doesn't look good.
don't want a robot.
No.
Just for those who are listening on audio, it showed a robot with Granny in a wheelchair, and it was giving her a hot cup of tea and vacuuming the rug while she's reading a book and all this other stuff. And the number one, I
Don't
would
drink
say,
the tea, Granny. Don't drink the tea.
well, I wouldn't have trusted to hand it off anyway, because the robot might have a glitch and spill it on you and burn you with the second or third degree burns. But the thing is that maybe we need to be up and be active to not be in a wheelchair with problems, right? You know, you have to be active and exercise, which is daily stuff for older folks, you know?
Well, that's true, but I think that there comes a time when you do well, people do better with companionship. Most people do, at least at some point, and there does come a time for many people when they do need some help or some care, but they do much better. It's the most compassionate thing, of course, to have that be a human. And I see this rolling right into planned obsolescence of the human being. You reach your expiration dates. It's too and Elon Musk was talking a lot about the cost of taking care of people, taking care of the elderly, taking care of children. And I can see that moving with the eugenics undertones there, with moving right into, okay, you have outlived your usefulness, your carbon footprint is too high, you've reached whatever age, and you can't do this yourself anymore, you're not productive. Rather than giving you your Optimus robot, which costs this much to produce, blah blah blah, it's just time for you to move into the great beyond. And we watched a great movie at Indy's channel the other night, The Giver, where people would go into the great beyond, and it was euthanasia. And they were also doing that with children who didn't thrive. So I would urge people to revisit The Giver by Lois Lowry, I believe it was. It was a book and a movie, but I can see the tie-ins there with this.
Before we jump over to Ashley, and she just popped out, but I had a thought to put out there, and I'd like her commentary on it. But let's take this one step further. If we follow things logically, right? So you're aging, you're going to be pushed to go euthanize yourself because you're useless. Now, what I see happening, so you got the Optimus robot, you have the Neuralink. What if your Neuralink could tell your robot what you need, right? So you can live vicariously through your robot. It knows what you need and takes care of you. But then why even have a body? Why not just upload yourself to the robot? You can become the robot and then live forever, and then be upgraded as needed to keep you going. That's where I kind of see things going. This is like a transhuman tiptoe towards it. First, it's an assistant, and then let's mentally communicate with it so it knows what I need. It knows I need to go pee right now, so it's going to help me out of my wheelchair. It knows I'm hungry, so it's going to cook me something to eat. It knows what I want to eat. It knows I want macaroni and cheese and hot dogs, you know, whatever the case may be. Then, you know, why even have the body? Let's just live in the robot. And that's where I see the progression of things going. Ashley, I seen you nodding. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that obviously showing a robot like that in its current form is an absolute horror show. And I think that most people will recoil and reject that. But I do think that even being shown these images and these videos from the people that are part of the predator class is getting people used to the idea. That's part of it. And then I believe that they will work on making these robots look a lot more human-like. They'll have, you know, like a silicone-like skin, and they'll look friendly, and you can, you know, kind of have your own order, you know, your own model, your own Rosie the robot or whatever, like from the Jetsons. So I think that there will probably be some of that, and that some of this is like just it's the trial balloon. It's seeing what people's reaction are to this kind of thing. But I think that you've also hit on huge highlights. The fact that, yes, children absolutely need to be with a human being. They need the warmth. They need to be touched. They need to see your facial expression. All of these things are super important. And it would be the same thing with elderly or people that needed our help. It's the exact same thing. We need humans. We need each other, not a cold robot, and it will never work. I don't care how much they try to push it on us, but it'll certainly never work for any type of, well, actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what people are willing to tolerate. If they can get some sort of robot algorithm good enough, maybe they will. But I hope that people reject this en masse and realize the very anti-human nature of these types of robots. As well as their spying capability, your behavior manipulation capability, like you're saying, as far as knowing all these data points about you. And then the other point that you brought up, which is perfect, is the eugenics. And what Elon was saying, like what Karen had mentioned as far as the pricing mechanism and things like that, this harkens back to a video clip that we saw of Bill Gates many years ago when he was talking about end-of-life care, end-of-life planning. He said, oh, but that's considered a death panel. We're not supposed to have that. So I think that we know it is very reasonable to assume, based on their previous rhetoric about the amount of people on this planet, the population being too high. We've heard that uttered over and over and over again. And then we have a million different things in between that can contribute to reducing population. And then certainly starting to see the introduction of this type of behavior and treatment towards the elderly. I definitely think that, and the chat was hip to that as well. Like there's a lot of literature and stories out there about that and tying in with the elderly essentially being discarded like trash. And I also think that there's going to be some other nudging type things that come into the fold that we've heard about, as far as like limiting inheritance, limiting, you know, you can maximize the inheritance that you give to your family at a certain age, like all of these types of things. So I think these things are coming together, but I hope that people will reject en masse.
I wanted to point out something that you both talked about. You both talked about the human touch and experience that people need. And I wish I had these videos. I've been noticing this a lot lately, but you'll see these little robots, these autonomous little, basically Roombas that deliver your packages, your food. And they're not so much here in the US, but in other places they have them. And if you'll take a look, the placement of the headlights and everything gives it a facial look. A lot of times they may have a digital mouth that moves when it speaks, because they do understand the importance of having that personal connection feeling, even if it's artificial, that they have to make it seem somewhat human. Otherwise it won't be accepted. So if you can give it somewhat of a human, I mean, why have these robot dogs? Isn't it more efficient to build something with, like, say, wheels or a track? No, because a dog is your best friend, right? So let's have these little, what is the name of the company? Dynamic, Boston Dynamics dogs. Why have a dog? Why not just put wheels on the damn thing? Because it makes it seem more kind of natural. Why have a bipedal robot do things? Because it seems more natural. It's literally way, way harder to make something with arms and legs that operates like the very complicated God-designed human body to do that artificially. It is such a feat. You can easily make something like, let's go to the, one of the, what is it? Not Star Wars, but the Terminator. If you go, I think it's the third or whatever one it was, where they showed the original Terminator, it had track wheels and guns. That's all it was. It was a mobile freaking gun platform. But, that's kind of scary, right? So let's go ahead and give it legs and arms and a face, and then put a skin over it to make it more acceptable. And I'm seeing that happen in real time now. I want to show this before we comment on that. I want to show this.
It's called anthropomorphizing, Jason. Anthropomorphizing.
I knew you would know the word.
Yes, giving human attributes to non-human entities. We've got some great comments in the chat.
Go ahead. You want to call them out?
Best chat on YouTube or on Rumble.
Do you have some you want to call out, Karen? Take a little bit.
No, they've kind of scrolled up. Somebody's Frankie said if he sees a robot not taking care of somebody, he's going Sarah Connor on that MNFer. I
Well, let
said,
me.
go, Sarah. But that is, and I just wanted to mention Courtney Turner and I are working on a show about Botox and the other ways that things are being used to change women's and men's faces because it's a paralytic. So the face doesn't have expression. The eyes don't crinkle, the forehead doesn't crinkle, and that ties in with the children learning to read, to interact socially through reading expression. And if their parents or the women in society and men, there's men that do it too, their faces don't react properly. And there's even talk that people who can't frown or smile don't have the empathy because your facial expressions can help trigger emotions in us. So changing our face so that it's paralyzed with Botox and other things is not just changing your appearance. It may be changing the way we interact socially, as well as the amount, our own inner workings and emotions. So I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you, Jason.
You know, that's so true because no matter how much we know that Nancy Pelosi has the insider trading scoop on all the stocks, she always looks surprised. That was a joke.
I know.
All right, let me show this. So I'm glad you brought that because I was actually going to bring that clip, Karen. Me and you are on the same page. This is what it's really going to look like. And this is a robot for those on audio that freaks out. It's a bipedal robot, precursor to Optimus. And I'm just going to play this and see what y'all think. The thing is on a hoist. I'll go ahead and pause it. It's on a hoist in a factory. They're putting it together, and it's just going total kung fu ninja on the technicians working on it. So that's what we can expect to see with an Optimus robot. And who will be held accountable? Like a self-driving car that just bursts into flames or crashes. Who's held accountable when that happens? And the silence.
Well, I would say nobody. You know, it's a tale as old as time whenever we have these regulatory capture and these institutions that are, you know, they're part of the big game, the big club. So you never have any accountability. And that applies to any industry in today's day and time, name it. The pharmaceutical industry, the military industrial complex, the health industrial complex, they don't have accountability. And if you do get accountability, even to a certain extent, it's on a much, much lower level, and it does not address the systemic rot that is really the problem. So many such cases.
All right. Well, I don't know how much longer y'all want to go. I didn't even get into my water topic, which that could take a while. It's up to y'all. I don't know if Karen, did you have any more stuff besides that to get into?
I have more, but I'm just not really feeling it right now.
Okay.
It's more AI things, and I feel like we've done plenty, actually.
Well, I'll hold on to my stuff then. We can save it for another show. But since we are living through this horror period, I wanted to share something fun. And I don't know. I was fascinated when I was a kid. I seen not a documentary. It's kind of, something where they were showing how people made sound effects back in the 80s and 70s for movies. And they literally would have the movie playing on silent and a guy in an empty room with plates and dishes and metal things. And he's just stomping on a wooden thing. And he's making all those clunk, clunk, the boot noises, the stuff you wouldn't normally hear while it's being filmed, right? Adding these sound effects. And I found this video online here of how they do for the scary movies, because we're living in scary times. So check this out. It's pretty interesting how they actually come up with those sound effects. They're not digitally created. These were manually created with ingenious ways to do it. So I thought this would be fun. Here we go. Let me mute my muted already. This is making, again, sounds with this homemade device for scary movies. And it's interesting. Now, I thought that was cool, and I wanted to show that because, I use digital tools, Karen and Ashley. I do use them. But isn't that little homemade device producing something much, much better than you can get from a digital?
That's what they call Foley in Foley operators in a movie set. The people who make the sound using all sorts of things like that on the sets of movies, and that's their job, is to create the sound effects, the clumping of horses or breaking of mirrors or windows. And so I think that's a great example of that. And actually, it takes a lot of creativity to do those things.
And it takes people.
Mhm.
People are getting paid to do it. And yeah, I know that increases the cost of production for something. And, I've gotten sucked into using some of the tools because we don't have a budget here. We shoestring, if that, and that's what comes out of our pockets. So, but for like a big production, like a big major movie, they're actually, it's become reversed to where they started using digital, start with CGI, for instance, right? For special effects, where that was saving them money because it wasn't so expensive to pay these stuntmen and all this stuff. But then now it's become so expensive to do all this artificial stuff that might be actually cheaper. Look at some of the budgets of some of these movies, right? Insane. They're spending like $1 billion to make a movie when they could just pay people out and do it the old school way. Yeah, it might not be as visually appealing, but for some people, they don't like all that CGI stuff. They would rather see a stuntman fall out of a truck rather than what's obviously fake fall out of a truck, like the Fall Guy or whatever. I don't know, just something to think about. Getting back to humanity. I mean, I don't mind the digital stuff for small applications. Kind of like I don't mind solar. I don't mind solar for a homestead, but I don't think the grid should be run off solar. Just like I don't think our entire music and movie industry should be run off of digital,
Yeah, that was a neat little video. The chat liked it as well. And it is pretty cool to see the creativity of that. And I remember seeing, this was years ago, but there was this movie like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I watched a little blip about how they made these sounds, like some of the splatting noises of like the food falling out of the sky. And it is a lot of creativity. And it's really interesting to see how that's done.
Wheezy says I need to redeem myself with an actual funny joke. What did the boy chicken say to the girl chicken before they crossed the road? 1 o'clock. We'll see if Wheezy laughs at that one. There's
Where
a
did
delay.
you hear that?
That was a
JJ?
joke. So back in the day, when I was actually stationed here where I live now, I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, and we had the absolute worst, horrible squad leader ever. He made our lives miserable. Middle of winter time, and it gets brutal down here in Missouri in the wintertime. He would have us out there 15, 20 minutes early, standing in formation while everyone else from the other squads, and they were sitting in their car keeping warm before formation. And so it was just absolutely miserable. And if you're watching, you know who you are. And yeah, you were a miserable leader. But anyway, I was kind of like, so I was he was the squad leader, and I was like the team leader of one of the teams. So I told the guys, let's come up with some funny jokes. So we would sit there and do dad jokes. We would make them off the top of our head and have contests, because that's the only way we could keep ourselves from being miserable. So that was one that my guy Johnson, my best soldier ever, he came up with that one. There's a lot of other good ones too. So thanks, Wheezy. I appreciate that. He said I'm still funnier than Tripoli. Anyway, I got more stuff to get to, but I know we're already hitting 3.5 or 2.5 hours, which I didn't expect us to go that long today. But we can save it for another thing. Maybe we'll do a midweek show. What do you think, Karen? You want to get together and
It depends.
maybe we can do an inaugural Karen show, and I could bring on this is the water thing I have for Idaho. I'm sorry, is actually really, really important. And I've been sitting on it for about 2 weeks. So it's something I really do want to cover, but it's going to involve a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
So up to you. But for now, why don't we do shout outs? Ashley, you've been keeping track of the folks in chat. Do you want to do shout outs? And then we can have Karen close us out with her wisdom thoughts of the day. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit that notifications. One thing I forgot to talk about when I was talking about the censorship, I saw that Yona followed me. Yona has followed us like 6 times. And I've been noticing that. So when I was talking about like how many people follow us and it's not reflecting, well, what's happening on, and this is on Rumble of all places, they are making people unfollow us. That is part of the problem. And I've gotten this from multiple people now, emails, and I asked Yona directly. He said, yeah, I don't know why, but I wasn't seeing that you're live. And then I noticed I wasn't following you anymore. So I refollowed you. A lot of people have said that. So censorship is real. It's out there. I wanted to get into the upscroll thing and the TikTok thing. That's just changing from the left hand to the right hand, the same owners, same everything. That's a topic for another day. I'm sure Ashley is probably tracking that one. But anyway, let's go ahead and go on to the shout outs and then we'll hand it over to Karen. Go ahead, Ash.
Okay, perfect. So thanks everybody so much for being here. If you are listening after the fact, we very much appreciate that as well. And of course, to our friends in the chat, we love seeing y'all every single week. And it is the best chat on the internet. That has been established a couple times over. So we have I'm Marty, White Wolf, SMU Hasky. Oh, I have I'm Marty on here twice. My apologies. We have Salcedo Paranormal, James. We had Big Ron, Ricky from Anything is Possible, LT Oracle of Truth, BT Taylor, Brian, This Is My Story, Nostradamus, Birdhouse Blues, Geesebusters, Sweets, Misfit 1904, which is Tom. We have Will Tabox, Frankie M, Ronnie Omelets, Narrow Way, Narrow Gate, Levi, I Handy, Angry Tiger. Franco stopped in here for a moment. I don't know if he's still there, but he was here for a sec. We had Greg Hume, Skunk Hollow Rose Gardens, Bronx Stomper, Faber Lignarius, Julia MR, Sherry M2, Mike from Troubled Minds, Carl and Hanny. We had Deb, Bride to Be Back, RB Ham, I Token I Know Things, Raz23, Brandon Bennett, Anna and Imperialism, NCK, etc., etc., etc. Tara Prada Wild. We had Wheezy from What is Truth and Brad Souter. And I think I got everybody. I don't know if did I say Doc Rock? He was in there as well. So if I missed anybody, let me know. I apologize for that. I try to keep track of everyone, but we appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Before we get our outro by Karen and her final thoughts, I am going to say that we are going to raid. I like this raid function. We're going to raid T-Lav, the Last American Vagabond. He's live right now. So, you know, I don't want to send you all the way like, oh, the show's over. There's another show. So go check it out. So I will do that as soon as we close out. And Karen, to you.
Okay. I wanted to say, I'm so glad to see everybody in the chat. We really try. Chatting has always been my favorite thing. I was chatting long before I ever thought about going on a show. So the atmosphere in the chat is so critical to me. So we work to maintain that positive atmosphere. Sticklers about it here. And so I hope everybody has a good week. To those listening in the future, hello to you. And we want to express our appreciation for your time, spending your valuable time with us. And I am going to be on with Ricky and James Salcedo tomorrow night. Anything is possible at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. If I talk about paranormal type things, Ashley is going to be on Wheezy's show, What is Truth podcast, a little bit later on this evening. And so I think we had a good little escape here, talked about some other issues. We could have spent our time really in some serious doom and gloom, going over the intricacies of the news cycle. And we did talk about some serious topics, but hopefully we had a little bit of fun too. And don't forget Angry Tigers, Tiger Tales tonight music on Angry Tigers Den channel at 8:30 Eastern. So hope to see you all there. And I'll just end with, keep your sword tight, keep your armor sharp. Oh, I messed it up. Keep your sword tight. Keep your keep your sword sharp. Keep your armor tight and shine your light. There we go.
Keep it rust free. God bless everybody.
Keep it rust free. Don't forget the armor all.